living in the same place year after year has been kind of limiting. So, decided to make a big change. I bought a van. So, I bought a van. I feel like it's really gonna suit more of this nomadic lifestyle I've kind of been living, or maybe more of like a dirtbag hiker type of lifestyle, as I've basically been doing that, you know, going off every single year for months and months and months at a time to go hike long distance trails. And you know, now I can essentially live at those long distance trails, you know, and have this like home, this cabin to come back to and work in and, you know, spend the rest of my time in. So this is a Ford E150 from 2008 with less than 100,000 miles, and I'm absolutely in love with the thing. I spent about 2 weeks building it out, so just about every single thing you're about to see in here only took 2 weeks. If it's amazing, you'll look at something and be like, I could do that, you know, but then when you get to it, there's all these little tiny pieces and parts that are so much harder than it actually looks. But at the same time, ultimately, living in a space like this, the only thing you truly need is like a bed and water, and everything else is kind of just luxury. I actually know someone that has gone that route and has lived in his van for quite a long time with just like a bed, and that's like it. I want it to feel more like a home, you know, more like something that I was actually going to want to spend time in and live in and work in, you know. So although this is very much so a budget build, very much so using a lot of scrap wood, I put a lot of effort into this, you know, giving myself a place to sleep, a place to actually live in and stuff. You know, ultimately this is something that I've been thinking about for years, you know, whether it's worth it and whether it's something that I personally could do. So this is kind of where I'm at right now. There's definitely a lot of stuff to keep adding in the future, but so far I'm really happy with it in its current iteration. So let's check it out. So the last owner of this van, I guess, backed into something. I have no idea what. Knowing that, and then also like in the initial test drive, I immediately knew the first thing I was going to want was a backup camera. You know, so I can actually see where I'm going when I'm reversing. I can make sure I'm not going to hit anything. This van actually has a lot of windows, so that's nice for, you know, just being able to see the space around me, because it is a pretty big, bulky thing. If you're used to driving a smaller car or even a larger SUV, like, this is a big difference. You know, it's a very big vehicle. Now, recently I got into birding, so I have a nice little Florida bird sheet here. When I hike across these states and when I go out on these long trips, I feel like it's such a travesty to not know the area I'm hiking through, you know, the history of it, or the animals of it, or the birds, the plants. You know, I feel like that's something I really want to keep up with in the future. So, here we have the rest of the van. It may be a pretty small space. You can obviously tell, like, sitting up, I only have, I guess, a couple inches between my head and the ceiling, but I'll sit on my bed and do my work on my table. Or just the other day, I was doing paintings for people that were interested in a commission, and it was perfect. You know, it was a really, really nice experience to be able to actually be in here and work in here. Something else that I love about being in here, you know, compared to like a conventional house or an apartment or something, is just how close everything is. You know, how I have everything at my fingertips. So I've tried to decorate a little bit, make it feel a little bit more like home. In past places I've lived, I've always covered my walls with like all my art and all these pictures and stuff like that, because, you know, I felt like it added a lot of life to the room. It added a lot of life to the situation, and, you know, gave me something to look at and gave me something to dream about. And, you know, I feel like this place is no different. And then on this side, now you can see I put these upper cabinets here, and so far I haven't put anything in front of it, but nothing's fallen out driving around, so I don't know if I really need anything in front of it. I thought maybe just like a paracord, line of paracord going across the front. So this bed, it's basically a full-size bed, but I had to cut a little bit off the front and a little bit off the side, so it's exactly 6 feet long, and I happen to be 6'2". I just lay in an angle, and that's totally fine. It's actually been quite cold recently, so I've been sleeping under my 30-degree Enlighten Equipment quilt, and it's been really comfortable. you know, as you guys know, I normally sleep on like a 1/8 inch thick piece of foam out in the frickin' woods. So this like memory foam topper is pretty luxurious, even if it's not like super thick. Now, I personally didn't want to buy a refrigerator. First of all, ones that are meant for like RVs, 12-volt refrigerators, are ridiculously expensive. You know, you'll spend $1,000 for something that they're really tiny and ridiculously expensive. So I just bought a cooler. You know, I bought a cooler and then naturally covered it in stickers, because over the years I've just been given all these stickers and I've been kind of like hoarding these stickers, and so I thought maybe it's finally time to put them somewhere. So I covered the cooler, as you do. And this is just like a cheap cooler, but so far it's been holding ice for about 5 to 7 days, which, you know, buy like a few days worth of food at a time and then just go through it, right? So yeah, the cooler's been really nice, great, cheap alternative, at least for me. So then my nice like cabinetry that I made, there's a lot of room for improvement, but I think it's pretty good. It holds my 2 water jugs, which I believe is like 12 gallons. So far I've only really been filling up one, and that one has seemed to last like quite a long time. I don't really have a sink. I feel like a sink and a gray water thing, like I've heard that gets really, really smelly, and you know, I just don't want to deal with it. I have a Coleman propane stove, which, you know, sometimes I'll cook in here, but most of the time I've just been cooking outside. I don't currently have a carbon monoxide detector, so really trying to avoid that until I get one of those. I have like just these window covers. You know, they're not perfect, they don't block out light 100%, but they do stop people from peering in. So then I also kind of fashioned some drawers from an old desk that I had. You know, drawers just make things quicker to get to. You know, electronics and things in the top drawer. And then in the bottom drawer I've got like painting supplies and art stuff, and you know, it's just nice to have everything at my fingertips. Now underneath there I have, you know, pots and pans, and you know, I have very few of any one thing, so just one pot, one pan, absolutely nothing crazy here. Right here, this is kind of like what I'm currently working on at the time. You know, I have my little daily planner, 2 recent paintings that I had done, you know, just a sketchbook, watercolor set, a fancy brush pen. Then underneath that is kind of like toiletries in a way, little spatula, and, you know, wet wipes and toilet paper, and, you know, a coffee mug, or bug spray and multivitamins, and you know, just toiletries and kitchen stuff and things that I use really frequently. So then under the bed, stuff that keep accessible. You know, got a bag of like non-perishable food, just right at the ready. I have like a bunch of hiking shoes. And on the other side, I have like laundry, stuff that needs to be washed. It's kind of been fun planning like order of operations, or, you know, what am I going to need where, what am I going to need when, you know, what do I need most accessible, and what can be buried a little bit deeper, you know, and I think that's been like a fun challenge of doing this. And then also just keeping everything super simple and keeping everything super cheap, because so many of these van conversions, like people are spending $30,000 on a van and then like putting another $15,000, $10,000, $20,000 into these things. I did not want to spend that type of money. I don't feel like I need something like that. Then here in the back, my garage of sorts, I suppose. So I just got back from a backpacking trip, so my backpack is still packed, even though that's kind of bad practice. And my girlfriend got me this really lovely chalk bag. I've got other backpacks, got more climbing stuff, you know, so there's still a lot of space back here that I haven't totally filled, and I think that's good. You know, it gives me a lot of room to like add in extra stuff that I find I might need, whereas I feel a lot of people might start out just like packed to the gills. You know, just like in backpacking, you start out with like a 65 liter or 75 liter backpack, and then over the years you pare it down to less and less. I think backpacking has really prepared me for something like this. On the other side here, got kind of random stuff, you know, a little skateboard. I'd gotten into free diving sometime last year, so, you know, hanging out at like springs and stuff, certainly something I want to do a lot more. A couple of camp chairs. And it's a lot of backpacking gear. You know, can never have too many Ziplocs when it comes to backpacking. You know, water bottles and just like random rope, of course. Just like, gotta have all my backpacking gear. I feel there's a lot of people that own a lot more than me, but it's kind of what I do, so that's kind of like the whole point of living in a van anyways. I think this is a wonderful balance between having a place that I'm happy to be in and comfortable in and happy to spend time in, but also I didn't put tens of thousands of dollars into. I think it's beautiful as is. So that's basically it. I guess in conclusion, this is kind of me trying to live more intentionally. You know, I think I have a tendency to come home from these long distance trips, and then, you know, living in Florida only has like 3 months out of the year that are solid. That always kind of sucked because I wanted to go backpacking and I wanted to go hiking. There was a lot of times where I just like wasn't doing anything. You know, or the videos I was producing weren't as good as they could be if I was living somewhere else per se. You know, I always wanted to be more mobile. You know, I wanted to go do more and go do better things and create more interesting videos and more interesting content. You know, all the paintings that I paint are from, well, the vast majority of the paintings that I paint are from photos that I myself have taken. You know, so the places that I've been, and that's kind of like the inspiration for my art, and that's kind of like the inspiration, I guess, for my life in a lot of ways. You know, this is a cheaper way of living. It gives me more opportunities to travel. I can still work in it. Certainly a lot of stuff is going to be harder, but I think a lot of other stuff is going to be a lot better. And I'm really excited to see what it holds in the future. This year I'm looking to hike the Florida Trail, the Ouachita Trail, the Arizona Trail, and the Pacific Crest Trail. I guess I'll see you guys out there.